Hey everyone. So in the last few videos, we've looked at how we can draw shapes, how we can fill colors, and we've learned the function required for all of that. But here's the thing, P5 has a lot more functions that are available. And what we want to show you in this video is how can you access the references, how can you access the resources that will teach you how to use those functions. For example, let's say you want to draw an arc or you want to make a rectangle that is rounded. We just want to show you how you can do it and where you can find more details on it. So where you can do that is head over to the P5 reference page. So the link for the same is over here and can be found in the description. And when you go over here, you can just scroll down and you'll see a section called Shapes, 2D Primitives. So we've already explored ellipse, rectangle, and a couple of other shapes. But let's have a look specifically at how we can make a rounded rectangle. So to do that, what you can do is click on rectangle over here. So when you get over here, you'll see a description. So that basically tells you what does the rectangle function do, the RECT function. And when you scroll down a bit more, you'll see this syntax over here. So it basically says RECT, and in the brackets it's asked for X value, Y value, width and height. And the rest of them you'll notice are in this sort of square brackets. What that means is that it's optional, that will work without it also. So let's actually look at this TL. And what TL says is optional radius of top left corner. And then you have optional radius of top right and bottom left. So basically, if we want to make a rectangle rounded, we can give the radius in the last 4 numbers. So let's do that. So to do this, I'm first going to be drawing a rectangle somewhere around the center of the canvas. Of width and height 200, 200. Now, as we saw in the reference, if we want to give a radius, it's the last 4 numbers that get added after this. So let's say we want all of them to have a rounded radius of 20 for now. When I press play, you'll see all of them are curved up. All the edges are curved up. Now there's no reason for these numbers to be the same. You can actually change them to whatever values you want. So I'm just randomly putting in values over here so that they all look different. As you can see, this one and the value is 2, so it's a very small curve. Over here it's 50 and over here is 10 and 20. So you can make a lot of cool shapes like this once you know how to round a rectangle. So let's look at another function to fully understand how we can use the references. So let's go over to this arc over here. So if you see, there's many ways to do an arc. There are arcs where there is no fill. There are arcs which are closed. There are arcs which are open. There's also a pie-shaped arc. So what will help with this is to first read the description, explaining what are the types of arcs that are possible. And then similar to ellipse, this also has a syntax and you can fill them in. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is you can actually, once you read the syntax, you can go in and edit the code over here. So let's just read the syntax. The arc requires about 6 to 8 parameters. The first 4 are similar to ellipse. It's the X and the Y coordinate, the width and the height. The next 2, start and stop, are the start and stop angle of the ellipse specified in radians, not degrees. It's always specified in radians by default. If we want to change it to degree, we have to use another function and we'll have a look at that momentarily. And then after that, there's again 2 optional functions you can give. We're just going to look at one of them, the one called mode. So this says it's an optional parameter to determine the way of drawing the arc, either a chord, pie or open. So what we can do is let's just go over here and we can press edit and you can actually change the code here to see what will happen. So let's say I want the width to be smaller. I'll just make it 20 and say run. And you have a visible difference over here. So you can also play around with the angles in the same way. Remember that the angles are in radians, which is why it says things like pi and quarter pi. Now let's go back to our editor and try and use this. So if we remember, so the syntax said arc, then you have to give an x and a y value for the center of the arc, a width and a height, which I'm going to give as 100, 150. And then it asked for a start and a stop angle. Now remember, it asked for it in radians, but let's say you're more comfortable using degrees. So you want to say 0 and 180, and you want to give a method as pi. The problem is the computer still expects it in radians, so it won't understand 0 and 180, and you'll get some odd angle. This is not what 180 degree actually looks like. So what we have to do in setup is we just have to say angle mode degrees. This is a way to tell the computer any angle that we give from now, we're going to be giving it in degrees and not in radians. So now when you press this, you'll get a semicircle, which is what 0 to 180 should look like. So you can now play around with this and say 270, and you'll get this shape. And if you change pi to chord, you will get something that looks like this. So definitely play around with different shapes and have a look at the reference and see if there's something that interests you. And if it does, definitely go and check it out. And the best part about the reference is you can actually just play around with it here. You can just change the numbers that you see here by pressing edit and play around with it. So definitely keep exploring and use the reference for help whenever you need it. Thank you.